Okay, hey, welcome back to the Sloppy Modeler. Welcome back to the show. We are coming upon the weathering process on the X-47B, the Boeing beautiful masterpiece drone that's used on the naval carriers back in the tweens or so. I have already used both the Panaline accent color dark gray and the Panaline accent color just standard gray on the bottom and on the wings, and I'm really liking the fact that it brought out those panel lines pretty nicely. So the bottom's been done, so the next step here is to do the top portion, and you know, with the top portion of this comes some additional work here, but there aren't too many panel lines on this. And for the top, because I think it would get more weathering, I'm going to use the dark gray Panaline accent liner. I am pretty pleased with the way that this has turned out as far as under the, you know, I have used the dark gray on some of these and I really like that. So essentially we're just going to go through here, and anywhere that we've got a panel line, we're just going to brush this on. I think all of you have seen how this typically works, but you know, certainly coming together and using that wicking or capillary action to run these panel lines out and down. And then what we'll do is, after this has been given a chance to dry, let's say, you know, 15-20 minutes, I'm going to come back with some white spirits or odorless mineral spirits and just carefully wipe this away. This has been given a pretty good sizable coat of clear, and so with that clear should be able to see that this will come off pretty easily, hopefully, in the far end. The decals have all been put on and they've been encased with the clear as well. And okay, still continuing on with putting on the panel liner on here. I did have a battery go out on the camera, but that has been replaced and fixed. So as I said, we're going to just case this here with panel liner, let it dry over time, and then come back to it in a bit. We'll hit all these spots, and essentially panel liner versus wash in this situation is all kind of the same thing for me, but you know, certainly I'm having a ball doing this. And we'll get all this covered. Hit all these extra little spots like this. So, all right, pretty happy with that. I'm going to let that dry for about 20-30 minutes here, and then we'll come back and we'll get rid of all of this. So until then, we will catch up to you in a bit. Thank you. Oh, you know what? Let's talk about these decals for a second. The directions for these decals. The decals reference many more panel lines for placement than what's actually on the model. I'm not sure why that is, but it was really kind of a hassle, kind of a challenge to find the placement of where all of this goes, simply because it was you couldn't, it was just kind of a general test of where some of this stuff is going to fit. And I found that I was referencing the 1/48 scale version from Freedom Models just to kind of see where some of this stuff goes. So in essence, I'm still a little bit challenged with some of that, but that's okay. But just be aware that putting the decals on this is a bigger challenge than what I was hoping for. But it did go on. They're all done. And like I said, we'll do the weathering. So after this panel line is done, I'm then going to go with a super light gray oil paint and do a wash, not a wash, but just do some streaking with that to kind of represent what looks like in the salt arena. You know, as it sits on a carrier and all that salt water, you know, that's kind of the big challenge there. And then we'll work on some of this exhaust to try to age that up a little bit. We'll use some jet exhaust and some other things, hopefully to get that to come through as well. So let's let this dry, and then when we come back, we'll take some paper towel and some odorless mineral spirits, and just kind of wipe this away and see if we can keep these dark lines dark. And okay, continuing on with the X-47B from Boeing, we are almost ready to bring this across the finish line. So I have managed to get all of the bombs installed, to put on the landing gear bay doors, front and back, and the landing gear, and get all of that put together. There are 3 little antennas, and then there's also a pitot tube up here that have all been glued on at the bottom of this. I've also gone through, and we're going to give a quick demonstration here in a minute, and weathered the bottom of these, weathered the bottom of the wings that you can see here. And essentially what that is a process I've used, or I used, where using oil paints, simply went through and with the oil paints went through and started with green. And these are just Artist Loft paints, real cheap Hobby Lobby paints, but they work great for this. Then blue, finally, or next to brown, and then yellow ochre, and then finally some white streaks. And what that gives me, I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. What it gave me, you can see the white streaks here. You can also see all the way down into here some of the green and the brown and the blue algae. You can see here more green and algae and so forth. And then some yellow ochre highlights. And then the browns also have really helped to update the panel lines on this. Same here on the 2 outrigger wings and so forth. So our next step is to come to a conclusion with this model. This will get a flat coat, one final flat coat. And this, the oils do take a little longer to dry, about 48 hours to finally dry up. But essentially, this is the next step in getting this done. I don't think I need the foam now that I've got the landing gear on, but I do need the foam for these. So we'll come back to that with a little more landing. Now, remember, we did use just a panel line wash just on the panel lines and clean most of that up to give us where our starting point is. But I think you can see the difference. I think you can see the difference between the more yellow ochre, greens, blues, and so forth, and then just the pure navy gray that's on top. And you know, I really like that photo, or I really like that look. It's kind of close to the photo, and it gives it the ability to say, okay, yeah, that's what we're working with. So we'll come back to the bit. I did have the 2 antenna put on here. You can see them, they're right here. But flipping that over caused some grief, so we'll put those on after we got the weathering done. We'll reapply those. So the system I use, a little bit of white spirits, or here in the United States, a little odorless mineral spirits, and then starting with a little bit of just a dollop of green, and I'm doing this on a sandwich bag, so that this works. But essentially going through with the green in just a few spots throughout here. Maybe one there and one there. And then coming back with narrower brush and just starting to fade that down around. I think I'm going to need a little bit of mineral spirits here. And you can see how that kind of fades that into all of that process right there. And again, I like that look that the algae, or looks like algae or green paint over time has kind of filled in some of these spots. Come back with my brush. And the nice thing about it, you know, this is acrylic lacquer. I'm sorry, this is just an acrylic Tamiya clear base on this, which means the mineral spirits, the white mineral spirits, will not impact what you're dealing with. So now, one of the things I did find at our local Meijer in the Midwest, these premium cotton swabs, and they have 3 different shapes. So they've got this shape here for probably applying makeup, the tapered ends, and then the regular cotton buds, as you boys across the pond like to say. And I have found these to be absolutely dynamite when it comes to removing some of this. You can see here that we're bringing some back up on the cotton bud. On the green. Same here where, you know, obviously that was too much weathering. We'll bring it back up. And the nice thing here, if it's you know, if it's too much, you can use the mineral spirits to take it away. If it's not enough, you can always add more. I think I like both of those for the green. Now let's go ahead and do this. And I have just do this in little sections because it's too big of a plane. It's too big to do this all at once. So just quartering up the plane a little bit. It's going to give us a chance to put this together as needed. So again, you can see here I'm leaving just a couple of green spots. And I did go ahead and put on the USS George Washington. That's not in the decal plan. Actually, it doesn't show you anywhere to put those USS George Washington plans, but I thought, oh, that looks kind of cool right there. So, yeah, just changing that up a little bit. Going back to my green here. And we'll do the front quarter of that. Turn this around. And you want to be careful not to get too much of the white spirits on there, because it does, you can see here that now it's causing me, it's not really pulling it, it's just more washing it rather than pulling that green around, especially up here. And I can go back to my cotton bud. And like I said, these are fantastic from Meijer at that stage. But what this is doing, it's filling in some of that, some of those panel lines with a green. Again, an algae on a ship, you would see some of that. And it's kind of also toning down some of that some of the panel line wash, that gray panel line wash. So you can see the difference that we've made on one side, and you're thinking, well, Navy ships aren't green, but neither will this one be green when we're all said and done. But we're going to go ahead and continue with our green process here over the third quarter. Now I did try just doing different spots of all of the different four colors I've got there for the weathering, and it just turned into a kind of a gray blobbish mess. So I went to just doing a single color at a time. And see there that again, we're making some pretty nice progress with some of this stuff, and this is all just by look and feel and what you feel you want on your ship. I do try to go to the direction of the wind flow as if this was in flight. You can see how nice that's turning out there. Just highlighting some of these spots as we go. And then right back to our cotton bud. And again, I don't want it super green throughout, but boy, I tell you, that just looks great. So to me, we're pretty much ready to go for our next color here, which is going to be the blue. And I know that these oils are small, but you know, you really don't need a ton of material, because you're not trying to coat a full airplane down with the color. I am going to clean up the brush here a little bit with the odorless mineral spirits. Again, same thing, just touching just a quick blue across the different sections. Dry that brush out a little bit. You can see my brush isn't dry enough yet. That's a little better. And we're coming across with the blue, and then we'll go to a new cotton bud. And I guess what I'm going for here is certainly more of a long layered look across that airframe. You know, I might be taking off some of the green, some of the blue, but I'm also putting some blue over the green. And I can see, here's a great example. I don't know if you can see it, but there's blue, green, blue in the panel line. And if you don't like it so severe, you can run the, Q-tip through there. And what this is doing, it's also giving me that airframe through the air streaking. Coming back with some more of our blue. And there's still some mineral spirits on here, so it's not like we've got a dry brush we're working with there. And again, over that Tamiya clear, you know, it does clean up pretty nice as you're pulling some of this forward and back. You know, so what you're left with is just hints of the color, but that's precisely what I was shooting for. Okay, one more section here. You know, my clear coat wasn't glass smooth. It's got some bumps and ridges and so forth, and that just adds to the weathering, I think. That it's, you know, these ships are on a carrier in the middle of the ocean with all the salt and the spray, water drops, water dripping off the edges, and you know, they're not going to be perfect, not by a long shot, but here. Fantastic. All right, so you know, we're going to continue with the same process here with the brown. Clean the brushes here for a minute. And I think the brown and the ochre are where the layering magic starts to happen, because it's really fascinating what you see. It's really fascinating what you see when you get this brown started on the different spots. One, I think it brings that gray back up, or the I don't know what you want to call it, the tan, perhaps brings that back up and starts to give us certainly it fills in some of the panel lines the way we'd want to fill them in, and gives us that I don't say mottled look, but it definitely gives us a big improvement over what we were at. And again, same process. And I would say this adds definitely more of a dirt effect. Start to see how we're really generating some real depth within that paint, or on top of the paint, post weathering. And the beauty of doing it this way as opposed to a real wet wash, again, is you're not filling in the entire panel line with one monolithic color. You know, you're not filling the whole thing in with brown. We've got those greens and blues, and now we've got a bit of brown. And I wouldn't use black, it's going to be too severe. I used the dark gray from the Tamiya weathering, panel line weathering. And you know, where you don't have panel lines and so forth, like this big area here, yeah, bring it back, and you know, it still has, you can still see a different shade or color under that brown that you weren't seeing with just the green and the blue. Now, I will say this about these Italari decals. These have had, before these went on, there was a thick coat of clear, Tamiya clear gloss. And then there was then I put the decals on, and then another thick coat of, then I put the decals on, and then another thick coat of Tamiya clear gloss. And I can still see the ridges and things like that. Now, my only saving hope is that perhaps the flat coat will help some of that blend in. I don't have a lot of hope in that, but it's kind of the only thing that's going to save from seeing the carrier film on some of the stuff, and how thick those Italari decals are. So I have done some weathering with pastels and panel line washes, but these oils, I really like the fact that you can kind of put them wherever you want and get them to do what you want. And if you don't like what you're seeing, you can just grab your mineral spirits and go after it a little bit and make that, give you a little better view of what you think you've got there. Okay, so here is where the beauty of a Navy ship comes in. Yellow ochre. Brings this ship to life, in my opinion. So the brown certainly toned down that green and blue. And we're going to go with the yellow ochre. Now I still have to go back and do the rest of the wings, wing tops, but I just wanted to demonstrate this, and then I'll do those off camera. But as you're watching this, you know, where you've got different panel line colors, the green, the brown, the blue, you can pop a bit of this yellow ochre in there. And now really give yourself some depth. A little bit too wet. And you don't have to be careful with this. see what this does. All of a sudden it really brings us back to that original navy blue gray on top of those, on top of that hull, top of that fuselage, I guess. See, I've got a beautiful panel line here with that yellow ochre that was not there before. You know, especially on these long verticals, it's coming up. And I'm still seeing my greens. Still seeing my greens and my blues and browns now in some of those panel lines. And the thing with scale on these tiny little, especially on this 172, we'll see how the 148 goes from Freedom models, but the scale on this, you want your eye to jump from piece to piece to piece, you know, from section to section. If you have it all of one color or without variance in there, you're not going to have your eye jump around. It's just going to be overwhelmed with the monolithic color. Whereas adding these layers of colors with the oils, you know, my eye is jumping from red, or I'm sorry, jumping from the greens to the blues. Yeah, so take a look at that. Look at how that yellow ochre has, even over the browns here, has changed that whole appearance of this plane just from using that yellow ochre on one side. And then we're almost got it here as we perhaps bring it across the finish line. Okay, back with you, a little battery change out of the camera. And again, coming back after this yellow ochre with another cleanup. And like I said, you can do all this to taste, whatever you think is, you know, matches your particular viewpoint of what a ship or a plane might look like on top of a aircraft carrier. Careful. Just cleaning up some of this stuff in front. Okay, we are almost there. So our last color is going to be the white streaks, and this is where I'm going to switch to a little larger brush, but when you talk about water and salt, I've never seen a water system that doesn't, or water staining that doesn't leave long white streaks, no matter where you're at. I was actually looking at a deck this weekend that had long white streaks on it, based because of the water runoff or what direction it was going. So, same thing here though, this is going to be a little less random and a little more And again, you can do this to taste, and if you don't like what you're seeing, you can grab your mineral spirits. And I think it goes without saying that you want to make sure that the streaking is in the direction of the airflow. So I think you can see there, fantastic. I think I might just need to pull a little bit more of this out. And that's giving us our white streaks, and it really matches that lower section. So I am not going back over the white with Q-tip or a cotton bud, because I don't want it to be diffused. I want it to look like an actual streaking on the plane itself. There we go. So, a couple of things left to do on this. I still have tape on the inlets, and that should be just a really nice white in there. I'm going to flat coat this first. I want that white to remain glossy, so I didn't want to have to re-gloss it after we were done. But what I will do is, after all this dries, I'll flat coat it, pull that tape, and then weather that inlet just a little bit with some panel liner or something like that. But for the most part, I think we've got good progress there after we flat coat this. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'd broken one off. Okay, we're going to do the wings, and then we will be back. All right, hey, welcome back to the end of the Italari 1/72nd scale. Grab the box here. Sorry. Oops, hair. All right, welcome back to the Italari 1/72nd scale X-47B. I have completed the clear coat, flat coat on this, and I really couldn't be more pleased with the way this has turned out. It's been really a big learning curve for me, but really excited about what we've done. In all transparency, I did break the part that holds that at the right angle, and I tried to glue it as well as I could, but it's once the part's broken, man, that's really a challenge. So I have to watch that pretty carefully as we go handle this, move it around, and see where we're going. I might do the big 1/48 scale with those flat out, but I don't think so. I think I'm going to do it with the process. So a couple of things that pretty disappointed with over the decals on this. Once that flat coat went on, a lot of that decal came back with the very thick decals where you can see ridges and so forth. So that is a bit of a disappointment. I am really pleased with the color of this, based on the photo and based on my eye. I'm really happy with the way this has turned out. And it goes together pretty nice. There are certain challenges, but working through it, I think that we're in good shape. But just from the standpoint of how this all turned out, I think that in reality, I'm pretty pleased with that. And as a first go, again, I am not an airplane expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just not. But what I do enjoy is putting models together and trying out new techniques and new environments and real subjects versus like a starship or something like that are exceptionally challenging based on there are so many people that can do these so fantastically, so realistic. Again, this is just an opportunity to hone my skills and keep working at it here. So this is going to bring the X-47B Italari 1/72nd scale to a close, and the next build log will be on the Italari, will be on the Freedom Models 1/48 scale X-47B to continue our series here on this drone warfare. But really happy with the way that turned out from a weathering perspective, from color, from the streaking, all of that. I think I'm just super happy with. You can see in here the white turned out really nice at the same time on that intake. So I am not going to complain at all on this. But again, I really think that this turned out fantastic for a first attempt at a Naval Air Force airplane. And we will come back to the X-47B in 1/48.